This is the Art of Network Engineering podcast. In this podcast, we'll explore tools, technologies, and talented people. We aim to bring you information to expand your skill sets and toolbox and share the stories of fellow network engineers.
Guys, I had the craziest dream last night. You were all there. Don't worry, it's not that creepy. It was like last July, and you guys had this crazy idea to do a radio show type thingy. I'm not even sure if there's a name for something like that. It's pretty revolutionary, if you ask me. You'd record yourselves once a week talking about technology and chatting with really cool people. There was someone that worked on networks on cargo ships, a lawyer turned network engineer, and even someone in Australia automating networks. For some reason, Andy kept asking him which way the toilet water spins over there. Classic Andy. Then it got a little weird. There were bongos and a bogus superhero that kept talking about translating IP addresses. Anyway, this stream was so cool. I wonder what you'd call a show like that. Cables and stuff? What the heck is up with tech? What about the art of network engineering? Yeah, I think that's what you guys would have called it. You should think about doing something like that. Be pretty sweet. Just remember that if you do, this was all my idea. Click the wrong button.
You clicked the wrong button.
Cue the host.
Oh
Yeah,
my
that's
God.
what I was trying to do. I'm sorry. I should have told you that when we were...
No, I just
Correct.
always
No,
wait for
no.
AJ just stares into space after you're done, and I always wait for him to start the show. And I don't know if he's waiting for a cue or.
Well, I couldn't tell if he was done. Usually he does welcome. to the
Yeah,
Art of
I was
Network
going to tell you.
Ah, you didn't say welcome to it. You blew it.
Yeah,
Tim.
I know.
Engineering.
I did.
No.
I did. I'll never do it again.
That's kind of exactly how this podcast started.
Yeah.
An appropriate
All right.
intro, given we just celebrated our first birthday. Thank you, Tim.
Well done,
I
as always,
am-
Tim.
AJ Murray at No Blinky Blinky. He is Andy at Andy Laptef. Andy, how are you doing, sir?
Hey, I'm good.
Happy to be here. Sipping out of his Art of Network Engineering pint glass.
Get
If you'd
one. They're
like
amazing.
you can go to our merch store, artofneteng.com/store.
I don't know how, but it makes my beverage taste better, and I feel a little smarter.
That's the cocaine we line the glass with.
He did say it was on the rocks.
Is that cocaine lined prune juice?
Here we go.
Dan at Howdy Packet. Howdy, Dan. How you doing?
Howdy, man. How's it going?
It's going.
It's going good here.
Too bad you couldn't get your new camera to work tonight.
I don't even talk about it.
It worked
Someday.
great until we hit record.
Someday. Exactly.
Yeah.
It was great.
It worked great for like 30 minutes.
Tim at Tim Bertino. Tim, what's up?
I am feeling really good with the audience that we have watching us, our wonderful Patreons, as we record this. This is so much fun.
Yes.
Yeah,
If,
thanks for being
um,
on. This is cool. Got a little chat going, right?
Yeah. We got a chat going. They can see us as we record. They can interact with us, ask us questions, chime in on what we're talking about this evening as we get going. So that's just one of the many perks of being a Patreon. We'll talk about how you can join that program later. But first, Andy, can I get a goat scream, or did that thing die last week?
I meant to replace the batteries. Let's see.
It's funny every time.
All right.
We gotta make it. We
That's
gotta,
like a terrible
we gotta make a
nightclub.
remix of that.
All right. Well, the good news is we've had so many wins in the first year of the podcast that the batteries have officially died. So I will put in some
Well,
new
here,
batteries.
I'll get mine to sub tonight. That's there we go.
Congratulations, you've all killed the goat.
Yeah. So many wins.
So many wins.
Winston's just tired, dude.
It's
I just
ridiculous.
picture DJ like scratching a disc.
Hey, whoa, Tim.
I used to beatbox on the side. No big deal.
Yeah, I believe it.
When's that intro coming?
Why did I not think of that?
That's
Next week.
All right.
I'm excited for
Lots
that
of
one.
wins this week. So let's get going. Robin C. passed his applied probability and statistics class. Congratulations, Robin. I hated statistics in college. so-
I will say in all of the computer science math courses I had to take, prob and statistics was like the only one that actually made sense. Like it was
Mhm.
real math. Like I took a math class, it was called discrete math. What the hell does that even mean?
It's like
really.
you whisper it to people.
Yeah. Down low.
I avoided math at all costs. Did
That's
not
why you
take
did
any of
marketing.
that. And now I work with you guys. So the moral
Where
of the
did you
story,
go
folks,
wrong?
is you don't have to be a computer science major to be surrounded by genius people.
All right. The
Nice.
complete noob passed the JNCIA Junos. Congratulations. Big
Very
win.
nice.
Big win. David Alicia passed the CISA exam, which is the Securing Email with Cisco Email Security Appliance, and secured his CCNP security. Congratulations.
Yeah,
Nice.
I love that guy.
is
Very
huge.
nice.
A mountain right there.
I love this one. I was so proud when I saw this posted on Twitter earlier. Corey Freed passed his A+ exam, and he did it wearing an A1 t-shirt.
I saw that picture.
Yeah, I
that was
did see that.
awesome.
Yeah, he
see
posted a
what you did
picture
there.
of his pass, his score report, and there he is. You just barely see the top. You know what it is, though. You know what it is.
You know what that means, AJ? Our stuff, it's lucky. It's lucky
Yeah.
stuff. Lucky shirts.
Yeah, lucky shirts for sure. I've got one in the mix. I'm working on a design that says. like,
I'm just kidding, Corey. You did that all on your own.
Yeah.
So here's a pretty cool win. Steve Blur posted in the winning channel in the Discord. He was basically changing careers, right? Going from audio engineer, working in TV and broadcast. And over the course of 2019, 2020, he obtained CCNA Security Plus and a few other certifications, landed a job working as a data center tech. And just recently, they accepted an offer with a significant salary increase doing cloud networking for a broadcast company. So he kind of came full circle there.
Very nice.
So
That is awesome.
very cool. Very,
That
very
is
cool.
awesome.
Marvin 121 passed the N+ exam, the CompTIA N+. So congratulations, Marvin.
Very
Good job,
cool.
Good job.
Yeah,
Tigger
Marvin.
Bits passed the AZ900.
Wait a minute. What happened, Tim?
Nope,
What happened? Tim's on the floor.
Keep moving. Keep moving.
Hey, I can't help these names, man. These are the names that people choose to identify
All right.
themselves with in the
All right,
Discord.
new goal. We got to get some crazy Discord names in there. Just
What do you
to
mean we
trick
have to?
AJ
There
up.
already are.
That's
Yeah.
my favorite moment of the show this past year is watching what just happened to Tim.
The best part was how he said it. It's like he said it and then he had to say it again because
He wasn't
I'm
sure that
crying.
was right.
I like to repeat myself.
Oh gosh.
I like to repeat myself.
All right. Anyways, so Tigger over there. What?
What's Mr. Bits doing?
Yeah.
They passed the AZ900.
Hey.
Okay. Hey.
Congratulations, Tiggerbits. Zapdos26 passed the AWS CCP. That's Certified Cloud Practitioner. So congratulations, Zapdos26.
Yeah. Good job on that.
So that's all the wins for this week. Let's give a very special welcome to all of our Patreons. Thank you so much for joining us and supporting the content we create. We really do appreciate it. So joining us in the past week was Jonathan, Matt, Stink, Chris, Michael, Luke, David, and
can't do
Narut.
this episode, man.
What was that last one?
That's
I didn't
just
hear that.
that's
I
the
didn't
name
hear
they
the last
put
one.
in there, and that's the name that I have to call them. So
Thank you, Stink.
thank you,
What was that last name though? I didn't hear.
Narut.
Narut. Okay.
Welcome all. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you guys. I hope to see
So-
you in our chats.
Not only is it cool that we have Patreons in the first place, we have Patreons from all over the world.
Hmm.
And so it's so I don't know. I just never expected it, right? Like as much as people suggested that we do the Patreon program, we didn't think that we would get as many as we have already, and we very, very much appreciate your support. If you are interested in being a Patreon, please go to patreon.com/artofneteng. You'll see that we have 3 different levels of Patreon. You can be just a general supporter. You can do the all access, so that will get you the links to the live streams, and you can join us every Thursday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That's about -4 hours UTC. And you can chat with us while we record the show. You can see who we're interviewing if we're doing an interview that night. And it's just a really cool way to get early access to some of our content. As we produce more content, we will be giving our VIP, which is the third and final Patreon level that we have. If you're part of the VIP program, you will get extra early access to all of our content. Some of the content we create is, created kind of just in time. So even though we record the episodes on Thursday night, by the time we get done editing and processing and all the fun things that have to happen to the episode, sometimes they're not ready until, basically by the time we're ready to post this thing. So if we do get to a point where we're super early ready with our episodes, we will certainly provide those to our VIP members. In addition to the early access to our content, you also get a permanent 15% off code in our merch store, and you will get early access to all new merch designs as and when they come out. We will, float them out to you in the Patreon. And when we do this to all the Patreons, right? Like earlier this week, I found some really cool hats that have like a leather logo on the top or whatever. And so we just want to get your feedback. Like, is that something that you'd be interested in buying if we ever made that available, kind of thing? So we appreciate all of our Patreons. Thank you so much for your support. Andy, can I get a goat scream, or do I have to do it?
We'll try.
Hey,
it
all
almost
right.
Wait,
You gotta shake it.
come on, girl.
It's not a magic
You go.
8 goat.
You got one more in there?
Who's a good girl? Come on.
Not her.
Denied.
No, time for some
I'll
new
change your batteries, baby. We'll recharge it. Okay.
Good
That's
God.
fantastic. So exciting news in A1 history. We hit our first birthday. It's been 1 year since we started this thing. What a crazy year. So much has happened. So much we hoped for, so much we had no idea. And we're here, and we got a lot more coming. Super excited for all the stuff that we're working on. Lots of
It's
stuff
just
going on
crazy to
behind the
think.
scenes. Dan and I are working on some Skunkworks projects I'm super excited about. So
Tim, you want to do something on the side and not tell these guys
It's-
about it?
Gonna say.
I'm pretty sure
okay,
we
sure.
told you guys about it.
Yeah, we most certainly told you guys about that.
Yeah. Yeah, we did.
I'm really
I know.
excited. You guys working on some really cool stuff. I'm excited to see what's coming.
But I digress. Tonight we are talking about change management.
Boo.
Right?
Ugh.
Everybody's favorite topic.
Ugh.
I don't know
It's a
about you
necessary
guys.
evil, I
I
guess.
have seen, I personally have some experience with it working for various sized businesses, and I have a lot of experience with it working with all of my customers. So I'm keenly interested in your experience with change management. But I think to start the conversation off, we have to explore what is it and why do we have it? Do any of you guys have change management in your organizations today?
My God.
Yes, we have a level of change management. So, I that's one thing I think we need to talk about too, right? Is how strict is some of this change management and how loose is it, right? Like,
Let's back up. Why do they exist, right? What's their main function? Why are they there?
Yeah, that's a good way.
Because I'm not sure sometimes. and I'm Googling it as we talk. And I still don't
Yeah.
have a super clear answer on, like at one point, I guess somebody just was like, hey, we got to manage all this chaos, right? Like my
Yeah.
understanding is, and I guess the bigger the organization, the trickier it might get, but you have a lot of people touching a lot of infrastructure.
Yeah.
And if they're all touching it at the same time, that could be tricky, right?
Sure.
If you're rebooting a router while I'm trying to change a routing policy,
There's a
that-
problem there.
that could, yeah. So, my understanding is just to kind of create some type of order out of all the chaos. And I know on the back end too, with clients, there's notifications, right, that might have to go out. Like, people want X amount of uptime. They might have SLAs. And if you're touching the network all the time, taking things down. There might be peak season, right? If you're in financial services and it's Christmas or, a very big spending time, you might not want to take down financial systems at that time. So I know sometimes it's to protect the infrastructure. Like, hey, we don't have to upgrade all the code right now. Like, let's just leave it alone, let people consume our stuff. So I think for the engineering side, it's just to keep us all from tripping all over each other. And for the business side, it might be to try to manage maybe the expectations of client uptime and having to touch things to keep the train moving, right? So that's kind of my high level understanding.
Yeah, I want to add a third aspect to that as well, and that's the support side. So if you're documenting your changes in a system where your first level support, the ones that are taking calls, fielding the problems, if they have somewhere that they can look and say, hey, these things are going on right now, because let's say I'm not going to throw out a bogus number, but I got to think a decently high percentage of issues are caused by people doing stuff to the systems, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if that first level can see what's happening in the environment right now, who's doing what, hey, we're all of a sudden getting all these calls about this thing, maybe that's related and we know where to focus our troubleshooting right away. So that's the third point to add on to your stuff, Andy.
That's a really good point, because I spent a couple years in a knock, and the first thing when you'd see the board light up, like, oh God, a lot of stuff is down. You're trying to correlate a change. And especially at night, like I worked the midnight shift for a while, like, okay, is this real? I mean, sometimes it was just management. Somebody might be working on management. Prod is fine, but they just broke management. So, everything's down. Well, is it? We don't know. And you're trying to correlate changes. And if you didn't have a change management process and people submitting changes to be able to track and find that stuff and correlate problems to people touching stuff, you'd never know. We'd all just be in the dark, like, well, I don't know. It all looks broken and I don't know who touched what. So
being in the knock, and especially working overnight, was that one of your first stops, was to look through changes that were going on during the shift?
Yeah, for big stuff. Like,
okay,
when a lot of stuff went down at once, you're like, it's, we did a lot of last mile stuff where I was. So it's either a fiber cut, like, oh God, the East Coast went down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did somebody just hit a big fiber? Or was it a change that somebody had done? So yeah, absolutely. On that particular shift. Yeah.
I wonder if like AWS has change management, like whenever they decide that AWS or DNS and AWS is going to mess up, who made that change?
So I guess that's why it exists, right? There's some of did we miss any of them? Any of the reasons why we think it might exist? Because I know that I've been told by people who've been around longer than me, there was a long time that you just did whatever you wanted to do, whenever you wanted to do it, middle of the day, and it didn't really matter. It was the Wild West, as they call it. You just you touch anything, anywhere, anytime. And I guess enough people broke enough things and pissed off enough business units that like maybe that's not the best way to do it. You can get more stuff done, right? And that's the trade-off. Like, you can be more agile. Is that the term everybody loves now? Like,
Sure.
you can be more agile and get more done.
Right.
But you could create chaos too.
I would have to
do
think
metrics
that
play
on,
into this at all?
Oh, I'm
like
sure.
like the amount of work people are getting done, does that play into it at all? The amount of changes you do accounts for how valuable you are as an employee? I don't.
Yes,
I think it depends on what the job is, but
I can tell you that is being watched. At least, the more changes I do, I think to some extent, the more productive I look. If I'm on a team of 10 engineers and, everybody's got 100 changes by this point in the year and I have 30, that says something, right? Not sure exactly what it says, but I think it's another barometer. Sure. It's another finger on the pulse of like, is this guy as productive as we need him to be? And not all change is created equal, right? You could be doing some really big, complicated stuff and you're not doing as many changes as opposed to the kid who's just upgrading code every night and doing a lot of changes. But so there's metrics.
Well, and so one of our Patreons just brought up something really good. We probably need to define what is a change, like how do you weight that change? Because you brought up another point there that, I'm struggling with at my place is, we have and this could be another topic, right? But like an architecture review team type thing, or board or whatever you want to call it. I think different places call it different things, but they only want to run projects that are a certain amount of hours through this team, right? But what if the project isn't that many hours, but it's a very impactful project? Should it not be ran through that? And I think the same thing could be said about change management as well. How big of a change, what's the risk level of that change, that kind of thing. So I guess technically, what kind of changes are we talking about? And this could be very vague, right?
And it might depend on the organization. I can tell you tonight, when we get off, I have a change just to push some firmware and code to some production routers that I'm going to upgrade next week. Now, has anybody ever broken a router by pushing code? I doubt it. Maybe. But
is it because you said the P word? Is it anything that you could do that could affect production?
And if you think about it,
is that what a change is? I'm just trying to, like
So
Chris was saying here in the chat, let's define what a change is.
If you're going to touch production gear, and if you touch production gear, break it, and you haven't created that change record, you're probably going to be walked out the door. It might depend on the place you're at, but my experience in different companies is we don't need cowboys here. We don't need heroes. If you're going to touch production, you let everybody know you're touching production.
So let me ask this though, because
it's a record, right? It's proof. It's permission. You're asking permission. Hey, I'd like to touch this thing.
Yeah.
Is that okay with everybody?
It's permission. And then once it's approved, it's like documentation, like this change was made then, and it
went through the boards that Dan talked about. It went through a peer review it kicks off all these processes, right? I have to get peer reviewed. Then I have to go to the engineering review board and everybody looks at it. We talk about it. There's usually commands I might have botched or syntax or something about validation I forgot to look at that more senior guys pick out. So it all kicks off all that good, kind of review.
But let me throw this little twist in there. Okay, let's say from a developer's point of view, if they're coding, they're developing their dev systems, to push to production eventually, right? But they're working on dev systems. Well, now the network I'm in, we don't have a complete dev network and a complete separate prod network. So let's say I'm on my firewall and I have to allow ports from their dev servers, to talk through the firewall, to talk, to whatever the case may be. I'm technically touching a production firewall, but I'm only touching rules that are going to be applied to dev servers. Yeah. So how, let's go back to what you were saying. If you touch anything in production, do I need to open up a change request for, adding firewall rules for a dev system?
That's another good point. There's a lot of gray area and a lot of things are open to interpretation. So all this stuff is, unless somebody at your organization wrote that down, like, hey, every time you touch this prod firewall that the whole company is moving through, you got to open a change. If they don't define that, well, now you're sitting there and you got to do something for dev and it's super important because of a project. And you're like, well, I'm not sure if I need a change. And, for me, I've broken things and my management has defended me and protected my job. And I can tell you that if I didn't have a change, they can't protect me, right? They have no ground to stand on. So to your point, Dan, you could do it without a change. And if you're in a culture that if you break prod, and you didn't have a change, they're okay with it because you guys have that understanding. But the couple places that I've worked, which is why I open a change for almost everything I do, even if I'm not sure if I need one. Like, I can tell you that there's people that push code to routers without opening changes, right? And opening changes can be a pain and it takes cycles of your day and time and it's annoying. So I could say, well, I'm too busy and you can never break anything. And then I step on that one weird rare bug that, the buffer was this, and then you pushed it and it hit that boot flash and the thing reloaded and everything went down.
And you blinked your left eye right at the right?
Second. Like we're all one goofy bug away from something unexpected happening. So I open changes for everything just out of self-preservation mostly, because I need to give my manager ammo to protect me. But like you said, Dan, you're in a smallerish shop and maybe you can touch stuff without it. I could push code without a change. If something happens, I'm not in a good position.
Right. So one of the Patreons just brought up that they, going back on your point there, basically was they, accidentally took down a data center by fat fingering an EIGRP prefix once.
Yep.
And he said that the only thing that the change window is what covered his ass. So, that's a perfect example of what you were just talking about.
And now you're talking about the window, right? There's agreed upon times and days that you can break certain things. So like,
right.
There's quarterly maintenance windows where you could break anything you want. And that, you could take down a data center for 4 hours and you're good because that's all been communicated to the business units and it's all written down. Like, listen, 4 times a year, we go crazy to fix the bigger, more complicated stuff.
Right.
So that's another advantage, right? You're now given certain times and days that you can break stuff because sometimes you got to break stuff, right? You got to take things down. And so, yeah, it's a whole thing.
I think one thing too is you were talking about how many times a year that you're allowed to do like big changes like that. Well, so like at our place, we do I'm just going to call it our cab because that's what we call it. We do it every single week, right? Now, some places, some vendors that I've worked with, they only get it once a month. Like they only can get a window to do anything once a month. Like if we're talking about cutting over a VPN tunnel or something like that, bringing up a VPN tunnel, whatever the case may be. And that's frustrating, right? It's frustrating as an engineer that you can't, knock something out. You have to wait that long to knock this thing out. I get frustrated with just a single week.
Yeah.
I'm ready to do this tonight, boys. So
now that you say that, Dan, let's talk about, this is going to be, I know this is going to be insanely exciting, but let's talk about types of changes. So before I get going, are any of you guys ITIL guys? Because I'm not. No. So I don't know if any of you are going to completely blow out of the water anything I'm about to say, but
I know what it is, but I've never followed it to a T or gotten the certification.
Okay. A certification that AJ doesn't have, write it down. Okay.
And go get it.
and go get it. AJ, I got this.
You got one on him.
So I've learned that there are different types of changes, right? And I want to cover 3 of them. You can have what I've heard called as a normal change, which I think is the one that we've been kind of talking about here, the big one, the one that's going to cause an outage, the one that you get a window for, right? And then you can have one that's more of a standard change. And a standard change is something that you have a protocol and procedure written for. And it's just that. It's a template that you can basically just go and say, hey, I'm going to do this template at this time. It's not going to cause an outage. You can do it at any point in the day, but you still click that, yes, I'm running this template. I'm doing this thing at this time. And it's still a documented change. It's not you don't need a window for it. You don't need to take it to the change approval board like Dan was talking about, but you still got documentation for doing it just in case you hit that crazy bug that, reboots the router or whatever. You've got it. And then you've got the emergency change. So to me, that's something that's more like a normal change, but it can't wait until that next change approval board meeting. Mm-hmm. So that's why I kind of wanted to bring up the different kinds of changes, because not every change is going to cause an outage, right? But you still want to have documentation that you did it. So you can have, quote, credit that you did something. The first level support that could take any potential calls has that documentation that you did something. So yeah, I just wanted to call that out, that there are different kinds of changes there. And anybody who speaks ITIL can come at me. Tell me what I got wrong.
That's a good point, because tonight, my change tonight is a standard change, right? We have a template. And for standard change for us, we've done this a bunch of times without impact. It's documented. It's safe. We know we're good. And it goes through much less stringent review. And we could do it any night of the week, as opposed to, like you're saying, standard changes, which a little more care has to go into it. We can't do it all the time. I could tell you years ago. So I've been managing data center connectivity for a few years, and the old guard, we had some reorg stuff happen and 2 companies merged, but the old guard said that we can only touch data center connectivity on Sunday. So a couple of years ago, I worked 23 Sundays because the change management rules at the time were you can only touch data center data center connectivity on Sundays, the end. So I couldn't do anything. So here's the point I'm trying to make is a company's culture can shift, even they can change their change management mindset, right? And changes that I used to only be able to do Sunday. And I think historically it was because enough stuff got broken and enough clients got upset with us that they said, okay, let's only touch things once a week and we'll go through. And then they think the more process that you can put everybody through, the more safe it'll be, which isn't always necessarily true. But what that does over time is it can make you less agile, less able to keep your infrastructure current and moving forward. And so it almost became stodgy to where now under this new, philosophy, things that we can only do Sundays, we can now do during the week as standards, because guys, we've done this hundreds of times. We haven't broken anything. Why are you only doing it on Sundays? So it took good leadership to look at that and be like, we need to get more stuff done. We need to upgrade this infrastructure, and we can't do it with the 23 Sundays a year. It's just,
Right.
untenable. So that's been nice. Just for me, a little side comment is when you have good management that allows you to do your job, more frequently and gives you the freedom to do that. Like, hey, you say, you know what you're doing, let's get more done. And we have, which has been nice.
Kind of like choose your
Andy,
own
I think
window,
you've brought up a point a couple of times that I just kind of want to like drive home here, that a good change management program is backed by good culture, right? Like I don't think if you don't ingrain the change management into the company's culture, it's not going to be successful. I mean, it kind of takes everybody to buy in, like the importance of it. Why are we doing this? And you brought up a couple of good points too, where it's all about like customer satisfaction, right? Like we have to make these changes to maintain the health of the network, but if we don't do it in some coordinated fashion, it's going to impact customer satisfaction and just overall happiness with our product. So culture is huge with this kind of stuff. Dan, you had a point?
Well, so I was gonna say, and I think it kind of goes along with your culture theme there too. But like, so where you're at now, Andy, do they let you kind of pick when you want to do your window? Like, I mean, not maybe like not during the business hours, right? Or I don't know if you're a 24/7 shop or not, but is it like, hey, I want to do this change on Tuesday night, or I want to do this change on Wednesday night?
So
do you get to kind of pick that?
Yeah.
Or?
So back to Tim's point, it's all been well established, documented, discussed, and agreed upon. So if it's a standard change, and we have a list, right? We have like a matrix of like, here's what a standard change is. You can do these things, one of which being push code to a router, right? That falls under a standard change. I can do that any night of the week during our window, which might be from ya to mya, whatever that is. But then bigger stuff, like Tim alluded to earlier, if you're going to cause an outage, that's a different conversation and more reviews and deeper dive, and you might, but it's been very liberating. See, it's a two-edged sword. It's a double-edged sword, right? Like I used to work so many Sundays that really stunk, but now I'm working many more nights during the week. So we're getting more done, which is great.
It's because you're agile, Andy.
Well,
you're so agile.
Right. But I was working one night a week, and now I might be working 2 or 3 nights a week. So I'm glad that we're getting more done, because we are, and I'm glad to have that freedom to be able to do that. But it's not all happy fun times, I guess, because now I have to work more nights, which isn't necessarily.
So who really won?
Well, right. I can tell you, like, historically, my relationship with change management years ago used to feel kind of not all warm and fuzzy, right? For me, the people sitting in, I used to call them bean counters. All right, now we're getting honest talk, right? Like these are people who aren't technical. They can't program, the remote on their VCR. Now I'm really dating myself, but they can't program their cable remote, right? Here we go. But they're sitting there with the keys to the kingdom, telling someone who's dedicated their life to engineering what they can and can't do and when they can do it, when they don't understand any of this stuff. And it's usually based on nonsense. Like, well, you forgot to put, 15 words in the description field. You only had 13. So to me, that's when it starts to get like, we're all busy. We're all under timelines. We're trying to be agile. We're trying to move. And these people who aren't technical are the ones telling technical people that you didn't fill out the fields right. So to me, that's when it gets like really got, but again, management, the culture, they all got together, I think, in a room and talk like, listen, this is the direction we're going in. We need to modernize, and we need to do a lot of work to modernize. And you guys can't keep telling these people that because they didn't dot every I and cross every T. So it's been an evolution, I guess. We're still getting there, but you occasionally get somebody like, nope, you're not doing that because you didn't put an E somewhere. Like, I don't know, because there's so many fields. You guys use ServiceNow? Like it's like
there is a lot, and you're
it's
talking
administrative, right? It's all the administrative stuff. Like you have to figure out all the engineering, but then there's all this administrative stuff that you have to wrestle with just to get permission in the window, and that's to me the frustration, I guess.
You're playing right into a question from Adil here in the chat. So he's asking, how do you define your implementation steps? So I'm going to take that a step further. And you're saying you're using ServiceNow. Do you put in a field everything that you're going to do, or do you feel like you need to do that? And if you do you just attach like a document to the form? How do you do that?
Some people call it an iPlan. I just have a script. It's a notepad.
Okay.
And here's what I'm doing. Here's my pre-validation steps and what I expect to see. Here's my change. Here's my post-validation steps. Here's my back out, and here's my back out validation. So to me, you can read it and go, here's what you're touching. Here's what you intend to do. Here's what you do. What's the result?
Yep.
So again, to your point, if I'm sleeping and somebody gets called the next day, they see everything, that my thought process, what I was going to do, what I saw. And
what about like if you're actually doing like changes like on a router? Do you put your actual changes that you're planning on putting into the router? Do you put that into the your notepad or whatever you were using to log that ticket?
The commands are going to drop in the router?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what my script is. It's mostly just all commands of, yeah.
Okay. So
and then the ServiceNow stuff is really just the templatized stuff. Here's your change number, the device you're touching. Here's a description. You have to put your CIs, what device names there are, the dates, the times, all those little, like the bean counter stuff I call, right? Like all these little boxes that you have to fill out. And God forbid you miss a box, because it's a whole damn thing. And if you miss a box 5 minutes before the cab, well, now you can't go to the cab, and then you miss that date. And then the project manager is like, well, geez, guys, we're behind. Well, sorry, I was fighting a field in ServiceNow for 3 hours today. My bad.
Andy wasn't lying. It's become real.
Well, but that's real talk, right? I mean, honestly, I'm glad change management exists, and because there's been a lot of times I got a change teed up and I go to submit it in our system, and I'll get a notification saying, hey, there's a conflicting change, which I didn't know. Somebody else is working in a device that I am at the same time. So it's good, because then it tells us, hey, you guys get together and talk and see if your changes can go exist. Sometimes they can, sometimes they can't. But like, oh, hell, AJ's rebooting the router with the code upgrade. All right. And that code upgrade's getting us off a bad bug that keeps causing an outage. So I'll back off. I'll reschedule you. So there's a lot of benefits to all this. But when you're in the trenches doing the job and people are leaning on you, and you're just getting pushback from people who aren't technical, to me that's what bothers me. But they have a job too, right? And I'm glad that they're there to help me.
So a follow-up question, Adil is asking is like, do you get grief from them? Like maybe if you don't include the code that you're wanting to put into the router, like your commands you're going to drop in, if you don't include that, do you get grief for that? Or do you get grief for putting too much information in there? Which I don't know how anybody that would complain.
I think
about
that all goes down to culture, really.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, the people approving the changes in the system aren't looking at your scripts, because they can't figure out how to turn the volume up on their TV. Well, right. That's what I'm saying. So like,
I hope nobody from your company is listening to this episode.
But listen, like, so in my mind, the perfect scenario would be network engineers approving changes. Now that does happen with our reviews, right? We have
peer
twice
reviews.
a week, we go over all these and we talk about them. But the fact that there's people sitting looking at the system and giving grief over, and the rules change too, right? Something that you've been putting in the description field has to be very specific, right? Like it can't be too technical. It can't be too vague. So they tell you what to do and you do it for years. Then one day they change the rules. They don't tell anybody. And now everybody's stuff's denied because now it has to be 18 words and not 15.
Yeah, I gotcha.
But again, because you're under the gun and you're in the grind and you're trying to get stuff done, now everything stops because somebody non-technical decided something. I'm sure they have good reasons,
Yeah.
and I can take a step back and take a deep breath and go, okay, there's probably a good reason for that, but I'm trying to get stuff done.
So I have this image in my mind right now of Andy filling out a ServiceNow form, and he goes to hit submit, and it fires back at him because he didn't fill out a required form, and he's just sitting there typing "fu bean counter" and then hit submit again.
I'm a people person. I deal with customers.
But I'm just trying to be real honest and real transparent about, how I feel sitting at the computer isn't how I'm reacting and talking to people. Like, you know what I mean? I can feel that way and go, God damn it. But then I take a deep breath and realize this isn't that big of a deal. And then just say, okay, what is exactly you needed here so that I can get this done, because I have 5 minutes until we miss this, this window that I have to hit. So how it feels and how I react is different. I'm not this lunatic who's yelling at people just because they're doing their job, but trying to
just Dan.
Yeah, but trying to communicate to you guys, what you're dealing with as an engineer, how it feels. And honestly, if there weren't deadlines, none of this would be stressful, right?
Right.
So for you, especially Andy and Dan, I want to get into AJ's experience here in a little bit, but for you, Andy and Dan, is this a real meeting, or are people just looking at these forms and they look at these forms every Tuesday at whatever time and then they get back to you? Or are you actually in a meeting with people, either in person or on the phone, presenting these changes and explaining what you're doing, and people are actually listening live and then telling you their feedback?
So let me take this one real quick. So at this point, so our change management is actually fairly young. It only came in about a year or two ago. Before that, it was 100% the Wild West, right?
Full send.
Yeah, it was full send whenever you wanted
just gonna
to.
send it.
Yeah, and so they started that out, and it was where we all went to a meeting. If you had a change to do, you went to this meeting, and this meeting was I swear it was like 2 hours long of everybody talking about what they wanted to change, who it was going to affect, that kind of thing. And now this was already documented, right? Because we had to send in a request. It's all done electronically, right? It's just a request with the different fields. It's not ServiceNow, but I'm sure they're somewhat similar, right? But you have that sent, and the cab, which were management. It wasn't anyone technical on the team. It was all management. And they would go over that, but they had us technical people in there talking about what the change was, who was going to affect, what kind of effect would it be? Do we expect downtime? Do we not? That kind of thing. And then after that went on for a few months, they were like, all right, these meetings are taking way too long. And it turned into basically all the technical people were not in there. And it was just management deciding, hey, this person needs to do a change at this time, and there's nobody else that is doing a change at that time, so they can do that change at that time. and just trusting us on, whatever we put in there, basically. So it's nowhere near as strict as like what Andy's been talking about. But it is good for kind of like what everybody's been saying about like documentation. If something's screwed up, one of the steps in our change request, one of the steps is a rollback plan. So we have to have how are we going to back this out, basically, if it doesn't come up or something breaks, or we go past, like if you have like an hour window or something like that, they'll give you like 5 to like 20 minutes of trying to figure out what the problem is, but then after that, like, you got to roll back, basically. So definitely
same.
That's kind of my experience.
Rollback is critical.
Yeah.
And just while we're talking about change, I think the validation, your post-change validation, is the most important part of any change. I know that's not what we're talking about really here, but you better have an expectation of what you're going to see and then make sure that's what you see. And if you don't, figure it out and or back out. Because when I first started years ago, I just had a job to do and wasn't exactly sure what I was doing and just doing changes. And, I don't know, I guess they'll call tomorrow if something, and then as time went on, I mean, you're new and you don't know, right? But then as time went on, I was kind of taught like, listen, man, you really need to understand what you're doing here and what the intended state is afterward, because that's critical. Going to bed not knowing if you broke something is really stressful. And I did that for my first year or two of my career. Like, well, I don't know. I guess we'll see. It's my first time creating a new tunnel. We'll see how that goes.
I love it.
So I don't know. Validation is everything.
Gotcha. So what about your experience, Andy?
I just went on for change management for half an hour, specifically about what I want to
Do
get off
you-
of you before I get
do
fired
you
for talking
ever,
too much.
can you ever talk your manager or supervisor into talking to your changes for you, or do you have to be the one that does it?
I present all my changes on our engineering review board to our team of engineers. And so,
But that's a more IT internal thing. That's not a actual change management board. That's like a peer review thing, right?
right. And they would be more for standard changes. For the bigger changes, yeah, we'll do our internal review, and then you might have to go to the cab, which are managers talking to managers. So I review it on my engineering review board that my manager's on. So now he knows what I'm doing and I describe it. Then there's a different call he'd have to go to talk to ICTOs and managers and directors like, hey, this is what we're doing. And then all those guys can say, okay, well, this is what everybody's touching in this window. Is there anything that's a flag like, maybe we don't let Andy do that this night because this guy's touching this stuff over here,
Yeah.
let's
Sure.
not play with the load balancers and the WAN at the same time, whatever it might be. So, yeah, it depends on that severity, Tim, I guess, like you're talking about how big of a blast radius, how likely it is that, are you going to bring something down? Then there's a lot more conversations, a lot more calls, and it goes much higher up the ladder.
Yeah,
so
at some point it's gotta be bigger than just IT, right? Because it's going to affect the business. So at some point you do need to handle that notification process and make sure that people understand what's going on.
Well, then there's client notification, right? Like you're talking about, if you're going to
Exactly.
impact something, right? Now we have SLAs where we have to tell certain clients, some
Do
clients
you have to
need-
do that, or does management do
No,
that for you?
we have people for that.
And is that
We have
is
people
there
for
is that part of the
What
is that
this,
part of the
mafia?
change management process? Is there like a flag that says, "Oh, by the way, you're doing this and touching this, so you need to notify these people"?
Yeah,
Or is that up to management to figure that out?
it's not in my wheelhouse, which I'm grateful for, but I've had project managers for other projects I've been on. Like I'll have that conversation with them, or like, okay, well, let me go get with the ICTOs, which I guess are like the BU reps. Like, let me go talk to them and tell them. And
Oh,
some,
okay.
some of them you might have 30-day notification. I mean, there's huge clients that you can only touch their connectivity once or twice a year. So you can go to them all you want, but they're going to say, no, you are not touching any of this stuff until, next year, the end. And there is no discussion about it. But yeah, you're right. Then you got to talk to clients, right? Like, hey, we're going to take some stuff down, and we have SLAs or contracts or whatever that says we have to tell you 30 days in advance. And that can be a whole thing, because you give them 30 days. If you have a change to do and then you got to wait a month to do it. And then if you have a lot of changes to do and you have to wait. So yeah, and it seems like the bigger the organization and the more you can really get bogged down in the administrative kind of stuff, right? It can grind you to a halt. And in my old org, it did. We touch things as least amount as possible, and it showed. The infrastructure was held together by duct tape and a prayer. You know what I mean? So that's not the way to run, tech.
Is that why it takes ISPs like 90 days to do anything? Cab meetings.
Tim, you're in a highly regulated vertical. I mean, how does change management look like for you? I'm assuming you can't do what you want when you want.
No, that's not ideal.
Yeah.
I've talked about it a couple times, and I harp on it on many episodes that I think culture is a big deal, and that's one thing that I think we do really well. For the what I called normal changes, that isn't something that you do all the time and is probably going to cause an outage to a place that is 24/7. Then you got to present your changes. I kind of my management would take those if I wanted them to, so I didn't have to sit in on the meeting. But a lot of times I like to just present them That way, if there are deeply technical questions, hopefully I can answer them quickly, that kind of thing. But yeah, I think it's back to culture, whether you have to have that line by line thing. And if you deviate from that line by line thing and somebody finds out about it, you could be in big trouble. It's all back to culture. And it's really you as an engineer, you need to feel out that culture and figure out what kind of environment you're in and just play to that. And if you do, you'll be a rock star and dot all the T's and cross the I's, or wait,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
You just sparked my memory too. In the old culture I worked in, you had to follow the script line by line, letter of the law. Don't deviate at all. And if anything goes wrong, back at immediately. Go back and figure it all out. Where the newer culture is fail forward. I've heard it called. Like, okay,
Fail often, fail fast. Yeah.
well,
Just
just
get it
fail
done.
forward. Like, don't. If 90% of the change was successful and you had a problem at the end, don't just back all of it out.
Oh,
blow it
I see
all
what you're
out,
saying.
and
Okay.
leave the successful parts of what you touched in. If you can fix what didn't work in the window, great. If you can't, you don't have to back out, take everything out, and start from scratch. Make progress incrementally. Where in my old culture, it was, do not be a hero. If it doesn't work, back out. We'll do it over again. And that really slowed down progress, because anything that didn't go as planned, you could have a 400 line, you could have pages and pages of code that you're putting in to do different changes. If any of it didn't work, it was just a wasted effort. Where this new culture, which is great, is like, no, let's get stuff done. Let's fix what we can. And the stuff that didn't work, we'll come back to, so.
And I'll bring it up again. I'm a big metrics guy. Like I don't mind putting in tasks, changes, whatever, because to me at the end of the day that shows from a statistical perspective that you are doing things and you can prove that you've done things. If for whatever reason you get to the end of the year and the company wants to downsize or right size or whatever, you've got that searchable documentation that you did however much you did throughout the year.
Well, and it also shows you a success rate versus a fail rate.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
How many times?
So maybe
did you
I
put
don't want to
changes in and
document
you didn't
my
have to roll
change.
back?
Incidents caused by change. I know that's a very big metric that's tracked.
Yeah, good point.
How successful are we in changes? How often are we breaking things?
So one of the Patreons has a pretty good question. He's and this is to you, Andy, since you're at a pretty large company.
I didn't want to be the change management guy here. If you guys get me fired for this,
you've been the rock star tonight.
I'm not trying to be. I just deal with change management a lot.
He was you were talking about your monitored metrics, right? And so he's wanting to know, how does that change become your responsibility? And like, do you have to find and fix, or does someone say, hey, here's a problem, Andy, fix it? Like, how does that kind of become your responsibility to fix that?
If I find something in my travels that I want to fix, like, oh, this isn't right. Let's pick on NTP. Like, if I'm doing something, I have checks that I do in every device I'm in, and I might look and be like, oh, NTP isn't working. It's configured right, but somebody changed something now. I can't reach that server. That's mine. I'll just spin up something and fix it. But then we also have an intake process where, because what we manage is the whole company's using, right? So somebody might come to us and say, hey, we need connectivity from here. Like you mentioned, Dev, like, hey, Dev has to get to something. So we have an intake process, and then my boss or somebody on our team will assign it to different engineers. Like, give that one to Andy, give that one. And so then I have a queue that I'm working through that. Does that answer the question?
I think that answers that. I would say probably 90% of my changes, well, it depends on what time of the year it is too, because 90% of my changes are people requesting me to do something. Like they need access to something, right, or they need, just whatever. It's someone requesting me to do something. And then the 10% is like, hey, I need to upgrade this, or like, hey,
maintenance type stuff, right?
Yeah. Or like a project, right? Where it's like, hey, I need to upgrade our core switches or something like that. And then that turns into something different, right? Because that's a big change, right? Because you're going from this set of boxes to this set of boxes. So you're moving that traffic over. So I don't know it. But most of my changes are because someone requested something. So I hope that answers your question there, Chris. But yeah,
I would agree with that. I mean, people are asking us to do stuff, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
I'd be fine sitting there studying for a cert instead, but now somebody's bothering me saying they need something, and then like, all right, I guess. So yeah, I would say most of it's inbound, for sure.
Now,
So-
one thing. Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
I was just going to say, I kind of want to shift this over to AJ because AJ, you're a deployment engineer with Avar, so you're in other people's networks all the time.
Mhm.
How do you handle that when you're doing projects? Do you lean on the customer to handle that change management process, or are you asked to handle that? Is it a combination?
It's definitely a combination, and it depends on the customer. So I've seen a wide, I don't know, array of how change is managed at various organizations. You know, I've certainly done a lot of what Andy talked about, right? Like I have to propose my changes exactly command by command. What are the verification commands? What do I expect to see? What's my rollback plan? Should this, should I need to roll back? And then how do I verify I rolled back successfully, kind of thing. And so I will, create a document of my own, and then I submit that to the customer, and then they initiate the change management process. It's not like I log into their ServiceNow system and start that off, right? There's other organizations that are a lot more, I don't know, simplistic about it. Like, oh, we're going to just schedule a maintenance window, and here's a written description of what's going to take place that night. Now, for my own sake, I still create that detailed document that Andy discussed earlier. And that's just something that I do personally every time I do something on a customer's network. I need that kind of like validation before I go just, making changes to somebody else's network. And it really doesn't matter what it is, right? Like I don't want to overlook any detail, even if it's the simplest change. Like I still do that process just as a habit. Then there's definitely other customers on the way other end of the spectrum where, we got to make this change. What do you want to do? And he's just like, well, it's lunchtime. Let's do it.
The full SIM customer.
That's me. That's me. It used to be me.
So yeah, it is interesting because I'm almost to a point where like I can anticipate like once I start working with the customer and like, okay, I know what I'm dealing with here, kind of thing. And then they surprise me and they're just, let's change it, or no, we can't change it right now. We gotta put it through the whole system. So I was gonna do an iOS upgrade to 6500 VSS pair, and the request to do that got kicked 2 months. Like, and it was like scheduled it. Oh no, wait, no, we can't do it. And then rescheduled for like a couple weeks later. Oh no, wait, no, can't do it. And it was like, this project should have been done and over within a couple of weeks, kind of thing. And it ended up dragging out for like 2.5 months because the change window kept getting moved because other more pressing changes came up that knocked the iOS upgrade off the table. The switch had been running for years without being rebooted or upgraded. And, I don't know if it was actually more important changes that came up, or people were just gun shy about upgrading the iOS in the device.
And that sounds familiar. In my old org that I was in, same kind of thing. We'd get kicked all the time because other stuff was more important. And once again, over time, your infrastructure becomes less and less stable. You're not off that buggy code. You're still on 6500s when you should be on 9Ks. Like that's, if people keep telling you can't touch anything,
right?
You just keep getting pushed out, and then that can be a real problem. And then when, the building burns down, you're like, well, what the hell, guys? You haven't let me do anything in, 6 months. What did you expect?
Yeah.
Well, then at some point you become afraid to touch something because you're now 5 revisions behind on code, and you got to make a jump. And maybe now you got to make incremental jumps because you haven't touched it in so long. And now it just becomes scary.
Well, and I think one thing that sometimes the business side or even IT management doesn't understand is when you let something like that happen, you're increasing your risk on that device.
Totally.
They think they're reducing the risk, and this is the big thing that you're pointing out, which I love, is they think that if they slow the train down and we touch things less and we create more processes and make things take longer, that they're increasing the stability of the network. And to your point, Dan, you're doing just the opposite.
Yeah,
right?
you really are. Because then exactly what Tim was saying. Now it's like your 5 revisions. I don't want to touch that.
Right.
I don't want to
Yeah.
upgrade that.
This thing hasn't been rebooted in 10 years. I'm not touching it.
No.
You know?
It's
We're now
December,
waiting
and my
until we
success rate
replace
this
it.
year has
Yeah.
been really
Right.
good. I don't want to end on a bad note.
And Dan, you had said this in a different episode, which I think is relevant here. Is like I know you had said that you've been working on getting your network to a point where it's stable enough that you're
Mhm.
not afraid to touch it all the time.
Yes.
But again, hearkening back to my old org, we had been put off for so long as the redheaded stepchilds who weren't allowed to do anything, and you were terrified to touch the network because it seemed like every other time you touched it, you found a landmine and all hell broke loose because it had just been left to rot so long. So you can create that problem and make the infrastructure just terrifying to touch, right?
Yeah. Well, and so like when I first started, remember we only had a single core switch, and everything was on that thing. So when you made an upgrade to that, that's terrifying, right? Because everything's sitting on that one device. It was very scary. And once we got more redundant, it was like, okay, now we've got fallbacks, right? Like I don't want to trigger it, but if we do, we've got something there, extra stuff there.
It's a strange
I was just
philosophical balance, right? Because the more you touch a network, statistically, the better it should be, right? Like you're doing upgrades, but in the same token, the more you touch a network, the more chance you have of breaking something. So I can see where the change management folks and management, it's kind of hard to. There's got to be a balance, I guess, somewhere.
Mhm.
But if everybody's touching everything all the time, it's probably chaos. But then if you don't let people do their job and keep the infrastructure going and updated and moving in the right direction, you're also creating that same problem. So it's a weird kind of balance there, I think.
Yeah, right.
I got a quote. Smiling Chris here in the chat. He says the memory leaks have now become load-bearing memory leaks.
I like it. So, and one of the questions too, Andy, and I'm kind of curious about this as well, but and this is directed towards you when you were working at an ISP. Did you ever have pushbacks from any of your like clients or your customers or anything like that? Like how would that work if you guys had to push out upgrades? Because I know every once in a while we get emails from our ISPs that are saying, "Hey, we have maintenance windows at such and such date." It's usually like somewhere around midnight or 2 a.m. or something like that. But
now, as
they'll
a customer
have crazy.
of Andy's old ISP, I can tell you they've never asked my opinion on when
that is true. They've never asked us our opinion on it.
Here's the problem, Dan. And even in my new role, I'm basically an ISP now. We build an MPLS backbone, and the whole company is going to consume it. We have to get all traffic onto it. So I'm in the same kind of position again. And I mean, we'll notify people, but we got to keep this train moving. I mean, if you don't, because we've learned from our mistakes, if you don't let us get off of this code that causes this router to intermittently reboot for no damn reason at all.
Yeah.
So we're going to do what we have to do. We're not going to let the integrity of our backbone, or at the old place, the ISP, like we got to keep, you're not the only client riding across this. Like, so we can't have one client tell us that our infrastructure can't be touched.
Yeah. Hold you guys back basically.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess for the relationship too, I mean, if I'm upgrading code at a remote site for them that a router we manage, and they say, God, can you please not do it on, this day, it's our peak day, sure.
So it depends is what you're kind of getting at. Like, it depends if it's a device that you guys manage for a customer, you have some more give there. But if
it sounds like more like the scope, right? Like if you're talking about upgrading your backbone routers where all of the traffic for the entire network goes through, like it's more of a courtesy, like, right, hey, we're doing some maintenance that's going to affect everybody, versus the site router, the lone site router that eventually has to be upgraded to meet the code standards or whatever. I don't think you're going to stop a backbone upgrade because one customer says no, don't do it.
And I think soft skills really come into it when you're, you have something to get done, right? So I can tell you that there was a time where we ran into this memory leak that would just bring the router to its knees. It couldn't bring new routes in, and it would eventually, the router leak would get so bad. What was the other thing that would happen? I think the whole control plane would come down. Like, it was this thing that the longer you left it there, the worse it was. So we're like, we got to get off this. We got to upgrade the whole platform yesterday. Like, we have to do this. And but I think the way you communicate to your BUs, clients, whatever, is critical, because they're going to probably push back. So the way it's framed, they're not going to stop us, but I also think it's an opportunity to, now it sounds foo-foo, but not say foster the relationship. I mean, I never want to be arguing with a business unit, a client, a user. I mean, I want these people to be happy with us, and I don't want to piss them off by keeping the network stable. Well, I'm upgrading this code and I don't care what you say because I manage this and you can go to hell. Like, you can't say that even though you want to. But I think there's a way to speak to people and frame it that you can get done what you need to get done and almost let them feel like they made the decision, if that makes sense. Like,
I gotcha.
I don't know if I'm making any sense, but
is that manipulation?
Well, it's that win-win thing, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I can't leave this gear in that state. Like, this is dangerous for everybody. We have to get off of this. Clients don't want their touch stuff ever. They want to be up all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a tricky conversation to have, but I think that's where soft skills come in and how you position it. Like,
and I think that's also depending on the environment too, right? Because like if you have people who are there at 8 o'clock in the morning and then they all go home at 5 o'clock in the afternoon and nobody's there touching anything, during the, past 5 o'clock until 8 o'clock the next morning, they might be more open to you making a lot of changes at night, versus someone who's, open like a hospital, right? They're running 24/7.
And that's why we're working at night, right? Like,
right.
That's why we're up at night. And that's why you probably have redundant hardware and redundant circuits and physical diversity. And I mean, if you've designed a network that you can't touch one side, if you can't touch your A side device and move traffic over to the B side device, you're doing it wrong, in my opinion, at least in the data center space. Like,
yeah,
dear God, if you can't maintain your infrastructure, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Data center, yes, but there's not a whole lot of A side, B side when you get to the access layer.
Well, that's true.
I think a good network design plays a huge role in your ability to do maintenance plans. And when you design for HA and reliability, not only is your maintenance window for maintenance purposes, but now you can also test your failover and redundancy. Is it working as designed, kind of thing? Like, you should be able to fail over traffic to your B side router and upgrade your A side router, and your customer, or whatever, whether it's your actual business customer or just an internal customer, they shouldn't be able to know, right? Like, if you built
it should be dual home
properly.
Yeah, it all comes back to that design, right? Because I have replaced an entire access layer, and for the single home clients, well, tough toodles. You should have all two connections, right? But if you're dual homed with us, well, I'm going to replace your A side and your traffic can traverse the B side. But
I think what Tim's talking about is the access layer to like
the actual PC sitting on a desk, the phone sitting on a desk, outside of the data center. Sorry,
the devices that don't have two NICs.
Yeah, I know. Not Andy's problem. Andy doesn't care.
Now I got to worry about the PCs, Tim. Jesus. Got enough on my plate.
Right, Andy, right after you guys get IPv6 rolled out, you're working on PCs after that.
Oh my God, I'm going to be doing desktop support next.
We're only into next Tuesday with you here, Andy.
Yeah.
All right, guys, this has been a fun conversation. Any way we want to put a bow on change management? It sounds like the necessary evil.
I was about to say it's a necessary evil.
Yeah.
The bureaucracy of it is very just overwhelming sometimes.
Sure.
Like because it can take, because you think about it, like you got 8 hours in a day. Well, sometimes filling out a CR can take me an hour. I mean, just being honest, because you got to come up with the plan. You got to how you're going to implement this, how you're going to plan on rolling back if you have to. And then you have to sit there and fill out all the freaking, fields in the request. Make sure you got to think about who everybody this is, like who. You got to think about who all this is going to affect, what systems this is going to affect, stuff like that. I mean, there's a lot of thought process that goes into this, right? And so filling that out can just be overwhelming to get that CR in there, and but then on the flip side, all the benefits that we talked about previously, like you have a log of that change. So if you got hit by a bus and the next engineer that comes in and fills your seat, they can look through that and see oh, okay, they were making this change, and this is the date that they did that. That kind of. It gives you some timestamps, that kind of thing. But it also will help yourself in the long run, because maybe you're there for a year or two, or maybe more than that, and you're like, what did I do to do this? And then you can go back and search that, right?
Yeah.
So it's definitely, it's got benefits to it, and I'm on board with it, but it is a pain. So that's why I say a necessary evil.
Yeah, I'd echo that. I'm grateful that change management exists. It helps the organization that I'm at succeed, right, and keep moving in the right direction, and make sure we don't step on each other. And the more people kind of helping, I'm all for. I kind of say half tongue in cheek, like they can't program their TV remote, so what are they doing here? But honestly, I'm grateful that they're there, and they help us. And the biggest thing from the engineering chair is, don't be a hero, don't be a cowboy, open to change. What I assume every time I touch infrastructure, I'm going to trip on a bug and it's going to break something. So if it takes me a half an hour to open a change and it protects my job, maybe if I didn't want to be where I'm at, I'd be like, well, whatever, it's just a way to get out of here. But if you like where you're at and you want to stick around a little bit, open a change, it protects you, and it allows your manager to go up the chain and say, this guy followed all the rules. And, because a good culture, they understand things happen and they understand things break. But if you're not following the process and protecting yourself and the company, you're a cowboy. And I don't know too many big companies anymore that have time for that crap. You're going to be floating around for a while because nobody wants a cowboy. You don't want to piss off your clients, right?
No.
You broke something, you didn't tell anybody. Why? Nice, Dan.
Should have learned to rope and ride. I don't know.
Now, this is a good conversation, AJ. Do you remember what I said when you presented this topic? I said I'd rather talk about root canals.
Yeah.
But I'm glad we had this. This went much better than I expected. So,
See?
good topic.
See?
Thank you.
You got to have faith.
What about you, Tim?
Trust Daddy AJ.
That's right.
I think my bow on this thing is going to be an echo of you guys, and it does go back to the culture. So I think you need to embrace change management. Don't be afraid of it. Use it so you're not afraid of your shadow, and know that it really can be a culture thing. Not every organization is going to implement it the same way. So if you're going between jobs, between organizations, don't just think it's going to be the same way you did it before.
Mm-hmm.
And you really need to find that out, work through your management, figure out what the culture is so you can shine early and not trip over yourself.
Yeah,
Solid
great point.
advice.
You could be going from, a place like Andy to, a place like I've worked at where change management, what change management?
Giddy up.
It's lunchtime. Let's roll.
So
Here's my last thought, AJ. Kindness doesn't cost anything. I've been cranky with change folks, and I don't think they're very motivated to help me. This was the old Andy before I got all better, and now I'm a good guy. But
Zen Andy.
Kindness
Zen
doesn't
Andy.
cost you anything. Even if people are getting in your way, so to speak, being kind and asking them, okay, what do I have to do? Like, what you can be kind to the people putting up roadblocks, and they're more apt to be kind back to you, as opposed to, oh, this jerk again who's, yelling at me because I slowed down this change. They're not going to, I wouldn't want to help somebody if they're giving me a hard time. Right.
Yeah.
So
Right.
You never know who your next boss is going to be.
That's right.
yeah. So kindness doesn't cost anything. Be kind to people, and they'll probably help you anyway.
Well, I think that's a really good point, Andy, because what you see as a roadblock is like probably the most required thing for that other person's job. As much as you're trying to do your job, they're trying to do their job. Everybody's just trying to get their job done. And
they're protecting the business.
yeah.
I'm the guy who can break stuff, and they're protecting the business. So, it's easy to get those horse blinders on, and I'm just,
Yeah, it's all perspective. Yeah.
I'm stressed and I'm under pressure and 10 projects and I got to go. And then somebody gets in my way, and it just can be jarring, but they're trying to protect the business. So be kind to them, and they'll get you there.
All right. I don't think I could have said it any better myself. I think we're going to put a bow on it, and I think that this approves our change window for episode 55. So nice work, gentlemen. Special thank you to the Patreons for joining this evening. You guys definitely added a little something to this episode. Again, if you want to join us every Thursday night, you can join our Patreon program. Go to patreon.com/artofneteng. And we'll see you next week. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great time, guys. See you later.
You broke it, you bought it.
Hey everyone, this is AJ. If you like what you heard today, then make sure you subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcatcher. Smash that bell icon to get notified of all of our future episodes. Also, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We are at Art of NetEng. That's Art of NETENG. You can also find us on the web at artofnetworkengineering.com, where we post all of our show notes. You can read blog articles from the co-hosts and guests, and also a lot more news and info from the networking world. Thanks for listening.